Hello there, my beautiful friends. So you guys asked for this video and I was more than happy to oblige. I went ahead and pulled some dupes out of my collection for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette, which is all the rage right now. So if you are interested in seeing these dupes that I picked out, then go ahead and keep on watching and let's jump right on in. So in today's video, we are going to be going over all of these beautiful eyeshadows that I pulled out of my single eyeshadow collection. And to me, these are all very, very similar, if not almost exact dupes to what I personally view the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette as. Now, you already know that everyone here on YouTube has to give these disclaimers because someone out there is going to be so freaking butthurt that I compared this shadow to a shade in the Anastasia palette. I already know that someone's panties are going to be so bunched up that they're going to need a steamroller to unravel them about the fact that I'm comparing these to the Anastasia palette. Some people just do not want to hear it and they just don't want you to compare your eyeshadows to them. And if I've learned one thing here on YouTube, it's that people feel some type of way about what you consider dupes to be. Now, I consider these to be dupes, but they're not exact. These are just things that I found in my collection that were as close as I could possibly get here that I wanted to share with you guys in case you just wanted a few of the colors from the Riviera palette. Then you can go out and just purchase some of the colors that interest you and not have to spend the coin on the entire palette. So I don't want to hear it in the comments this time about these not being exact dupes. These are the gosh darn closest ones that I have in my collection, and to me, these are good enough to consider them dupes. But disclaimer aside and sassiness aside here, let's go ahead and jump right on into my dupes for the Anastasia Riviera palette. Now, the ABH palette is freaking stunning, and honestly, I would just purchase it if I didn't already have these. But as you can see, I have these in my hand right now, and to me, these are just as good. So I am going to be completely skipping over that for this time at least. I mean, as of right now, I don't plan on purchasing it. Maybe if it goes on sale. I just don't know what the future holds, but for right now, I'm not purchasing that. And in one of my recent videos, I asked you guys if you wanted to see dupes for the ABH palette, and I got so many yeses. I think I got more yeses than I ever have for any question that I've asked you guys here on YouTube. So I was like, sure, all right, I'll go ahead and make this happen. I'm not duping every single shade from the ABH palette. I'm just duping the most interesting to me in my personal opinion. But the first shade that I wanted to dupe is the shade Seychelles, which is a beautiful metallic kind of tealish blue shade that's on the lighter spectrum of things. And yes, I had to look up on Google how to say that because to me, if I was just saying that like on my own, that is Seychelles, I would have said it completely wrong and someone would have came for blood in the comments. But I knew that I had something so similar in my collection, and that shadow is this fella right up here, which is from Clionadh Cosmetics, and this is the shade Snowdrift. Now, this is a beautiful, super metallic, super foiled, kind of icy blue that has a bit of a teal undertone, and it has these gorgeous pink sparkles running through it. Now, the pink sparkles aren't super prominent, but they just give it a really pretty sheen. And there is one swatch of Snowdrift, and to me, this looks so freaking similar to Seychelles in the Anastasia palette. So the next shade that I wanted to dupe from the palette is called Palermo, and it's a beautiful pinky red kind of mid-toned metallic. And I recently just got this one in my collection, but this is from Amy Hearts Beauty, which is an indie brand that I am just trying out right now. And this is her shade Maliyah. This is, to me, almost spot on to what we see in the palette. This is a pinky red metallic that has almost like a golden shift to it. It is super beautiful. Let me swatch her here. I think that these two colors right here are just so beautiful, and to me, this is like the epitome of the entire Riviera palette. This just looks like spring to me. It is possible that I may have just been cutting you guys off from the palette, like I may have been holding it out here. So I personally apologize for that if that's what I've been doing. I guess editing Emily will be able to see this situation and basically see everything in frame and what's not in frame, so I guess I'll just find out later in the future. The next shade in the Riviera palette is called Seaside, and to me it looks like kind of like a grayish mauve with a little bit of like a lavender undertone going on, and it also looks like it might possibly have a bit of a golden shift. So my mind automatically went to Looxi Beauty's Foxy Lady, which is basically everything I just described. This is a beautiful mauvey, lavender, purple, grungy gray kind of shade, which is like so many descriptive words, but honestly it's just a really unique color, and it definitely has a bit of a golden shift to it as well. Go ahead and swatch her out and you guys will see what I'm talking about here. There is Foxy Lady, and as you can see, it's a purple lavender that has a gray kind of undertone with a golden shift. Fun fact, I live in Washington, like literally on the border of Washington and Oregon, and Seaside is a town that's kind of like the vacation spot for middle schoolers, kind of in my area, in my neck of the woods. Literally everyone in middle school would go to Seaside on the weekends and get Seaside sweatshirts, and you knew that if you were wearing a Seaside sweatshirt, you were the cool kid for the weekend because you got to go to Seaside and basically ride bumper cars and walk on the really cold and hard and wet beach because, you know, it's the Northwest. Our beaches are basically just filled with really cold, compacted, dirty sand. So yeah, it's not like California beaches or like Hawaii beaches. It's pretty dreary. Not like any of you cared about that, but random story, I suppose. So the next shade in the palette is called Inheritance, and I don't know, I think that's kind of ironic because it happens to be like a super yellow gold type of metallic. So is Anastasia like hinting that you would basically have to come into some kind of inheritance to be able to go to half these places that these eyeshadows are named after? Because that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, that's why I don't know how to pronounce any of these names, because I can't afford to go there. I can't really even afford to know about them. So I didn't have an exact true metallic yellow gold, but I had something that was really close, but just a little bit lighter, a little bit more on the light spectrum of things, and that is this guy right over here. This is from also Anastasia Beverly Hills, which I just realized, but this is the shade Golden Peach, and this is exactly that. This is a super foiled, super metallic, goldeny, peachy kind of shade, and this is the closest thing that I have because I am never reaching for a yellow gold, like ever, so I didn't really have a whole lot to choose from. I had a lot of peachy golds and a lot of champagne golds, but this was the closest thing that I had that had that yellow undertone to it. And it's probably gonna blend in with my skin a little bit because it's almost my exact skin tone, but here is Golden Peach swatched out, and as you can see, it does have a bit of a yellow undertone, but it's probably blending in because I also happen to have a yellow undertone. And the last metallic and top row shade from the Riviera palette that I wanted to dupe is called Mediterranean, and to me it looks like almost like a dusty periwinkle, so I went ahead and reached for Looxi Beauty's Dreamboat, which is a dusty periwinkle, which has beautiful light blue and kind of mid-toned dusty blue type sparkles throughout it, and it's really beautiful. It's really duochromatic looking and just sparkly and everything that I love in an eyeshadow. As you can see, it's definitely a periwinkle, but it's a bit more on the cooler toned, dusty toned side of things, which to me lines up perfectly with Mediterranean. So moving on to the matte shades from the Riviera palette, which is the entire bottom row. I don't think I mentioned this yet, but the entire top row is metallics and the entire bottom row is mattes. That would have been nice to mention earlier, so I'm sorry. But the first shade in the matte row on the bottom is called Cabana, and to me it looks like a mustardy yellow toned type of shade that's a little bit dustier as well, which most mustards are pretty dusty toned. Something disgusting. Can you imagine? Dusty mustard? Oh god. That combination of words is like the worst thing I've ever heard. Dusty mustard. Ugh. Oh god, gives me chills down my spine. And as far as dupes go, I used to have a bunch of mustard toned eyeshadows in my collection because I went through a little phase of loving them. Now I never use them. Actually, I kind of hate them on my skin tone. But I ended up giving all of my mustard eyeshadows to Georgia Harris, who freaking loves mustard eyeshadows, hence why I gave them to her. So the only mustardy type of eyeshadow that I had left is this guy over here from Sydney Grace, which is called Red Start. This is definitely a mustardy toned eyeshadow, and of course it's a matte, but it has a bit more of like a terracotta orangey type of undertone, but this is as mustardy as we get in my collection, so it was the closest thing that I personally had That is the worst swatch I've ever seen. So as you can see, it's not like a yellow mustard, but it's more like a burnt orange kind of mustard, which can still be very pretty. So the next shade that I wanted to dupe from the Riviera palette is called Coastline. To me, this looked like a peach with a bit of a dusty kind of rose undertone to it, which sounds kind of weird, but that's just what it looked like in my eyes. So I went ahead and picked out of my collection this shade from Colourpop right here, which is called Softcore. Now, usually I wouldn't include this in a dupes video because for a very long time, this was MIA, like missing in action. This was not on the Colourpop website, but recently they brought back some of their discontinued items, and I think it's just because they're trying to push stock and get all of the old out of their warehouse so they can bring in new, of course. And they brought back a buttload of discontinued shades, like immediately after I posted my discontinued makeup video, where I coincidentally mentioned a bunch of Colourpop discontinued shades. So the timing was pretty convenient, almost suspiciously convenient, but we're gonna disregard that. But Softcore is a gorgeous matte mid-toned peach with a little bit of a dusty rose kind of undertone. Definitely has a decent amount of dusty rose to it. And here she is, all swatched out. So the next shadow in the Riviera palette is the most exciting in my opinion. It is the shadow that really drew me into this palette, and it's gonna come as no surprise here that this is a hot pink. Like, who would have known I would have been drawn into a palette because of a hot pink? But this is a warmer toned hot pink. It's not super cool toned or anything like that. It's definitely more warm toned, but it's not overly red either. And I already knew that I probably have like 5 dupes for Bahamas, but I just went ahead and picked out the one that looks the closest to me. And of course, that's this guy right in the center, front and center, loud and proud here. And this is from Colored Raine. This is the shade Party Drip, and I think this is the most pigmented, most intense, most vibrant, other words for amazing eyeshadow that I have in my entire collection. And I used to use this all the time, and believe it or not, I've kind of ventured away from just straight up neon like 80s fluorescent hot pink, and I've moved on to like a softer bubblegummy type pink. That's kind of my gig right now. So I actually haven't reached for this in quite a while, but like, did you see that? I have no words for that kind of pigment. Like, hello, that's one swatch. Y'all saw that in real time? The camera don't lie. But as you can see, Party Drip is a neon hot pink with a little bit of a warmer undertone that still isn't leaning too red. So to me, this looks almost identical to the beautiful shade Bahamas. The next shade in the palette is another really beautiful shade that caught my attention at first until I realized that I probably own like 5 dupes of it in my collection, and that is Monte Carlo. Now, I know you're thinking there's already a dusty rose kind of peachy shade in the palette already, but this is definitely a little bit different than Coastline earlier, because to me, Monte Carlo doesn't have that peach undertone that Coastline has, but they are very, very similar to me and how I'm looking at the palette here. But my personal dupe for that shade is this beauty right over here, which is also from Colourpop, which is the shade Cutouts. And yet again, this is another one of their discontinued shades that I wouldn't have previously put in one of these dupes videos. But like I said, they brought a bunch of stuff back, including Softcore Cutouts, so everyone can get it now. But this is almost the exact same shade as Softcore over here. It just has a little bit more of a rosy undertone and a little bit less peach, as you can see in the swatches there. And the last shade that I wanted to dupe out in the Riviera palette is called Con. And that is another word out of this palette that I had to look up on Google simply because I just don't know what that is. I have now learned that I'm pretty sure it's a city in France, or maybe an area of France. I'm not 100% sure still because I'm uneducated and dumb. But nonetheless, I know how to pronounce it, and it's Con, not Cans or Canis. But to me, Con looks like a gorgeous matte mid-toned, warmer toned purple. So I went ahead and reached for one of the only purple single shadows that I have in my collection, which is honestly surprising, and I found that out while I was basically putting together this video. But this guy is from Colored Raine as well, and this is the shade Ladyship. And I know you've heard me say this name before because I have included it many times here in my dupes videos. Obviously, I need to buy more purple mattes just for the sake of my YouTube channel, because I need to provide you guys with variety, because we love variety. That's why we love YouTube. But this is a mid-toned, kind of warmer toned purple. Now to me, Ladyship is a little bit more plummy than what we see in the Riviera palette. I think the Riviera palette is a little bit more blue based, maybe a little bit more cool toned, but to me they're really similar, so I'm not picky and it's close enough to me to call it a dupe. But why don't we go ahead and jump into some swatches here so you can see these puppies up close and personal. Alright guys, so those are all of my dupes or closest shades in my collection that I have to the brand new Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. I love making videos like this. I think it's so fun to go hunting through my collection to look for dupes for a new and up and coming palette because of the simple fact that I get to save money when I look through my collection and find dupes for palettes that I already want, because then I don't have to go out and actually buy the palette, and I actually get to save my money and get some simultaneous use out of the products that I already own. And I love bringing you guys these videos because I want to inspire you to do the exact same thing. And I am a single eyeshadow loving kind of gal. I would much rather go out and spend $5 to $10 on a single eyeshadow that is basically a replica of a specific shade in the palette that I want than go out and spend $40 to $50, sometimes $60, $70, sometimes upwards of $100 if you're looking at Tom Ford quads. That's a whole different story here. But I would much rather go out and purchase one eyeshadow of a color I want than just go out and purchase an entire palette just for one or two shades and end up not using the rest of the palette and spending a buttload of money on something that I didn't really even want that bad, just wanted it for one or two shades. So that is why I love these videos. That is why I want to bring you guys these videos, and I really hope that you were able to find this helpful because many of you wanted this. So I really hope that this lived up to your Anastasia Riviera expectations. And I hope that you were able to find a single shadow here out of this collection that maybe you want to purchase instead of purchasing the entire palette and saved a little bit of money. But with that being said, if you enjoyed the video and you found it helpful, then I would absolutely love it if you gave me a big old thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed and you would like to be and you want to see more of these types of videos, then what are you doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below because I do videos like this all the stinking time. But with that being said, I hope that you are having an absolutely amazing and beautiful day wherever you are, and thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope to see you next time. Bye!